Got this pretty cool product here to show you today. This is the Midnight Forest rod holder, fly rod locker. I'm gonna be putting it on Orion here. So I've wanted one of these for a long time. There's a bunch on the market, but I think this one's one of the best. It's actually molded plastic instead of metal. It locks. So we're gonna be installing this on the underside of the bed rack, like so. So with the Midnight Forest rod holder, of course, you can put it really in any orientation. You can put it on the side of a bed rack. You can put it on a roof rack. You can put it under a bed rack. They make attachments to put it on the bed sides of pickup trucks. Really, wherever you think you can bolt it, it can go. So in the box, it comes with 3 different brackets. So the first one's up, these guys right here, or to hang it, which is probably the method we're going to go. Those use the longer bolts in the bag. And then we've got 2 different plates. One's a lockout plate, and that uses these nifty little locks that they've developed. And then as far as hardware, they give you everything you need in the bag, 2 different size bolts, depending on how you want to attach it. And then all you need is a 9/16 wrench. So I've got out here both a ratcheting end wrench and then a regular socket. You'll need a deep socket due to the nut and bolts hanging through. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the camera set up and show you how we're gonna install this. So in my case, this is the RCI bed rack, and there's channels cut in them like most bed racks like this, but up on the top. So I can either pass a bolt down through there and bolt it on that way. But I think for the sake of this install, we're going to use these plates, which will sit just on top of the rack like so. You can see it on both sides. And we'll put those on there. And then it only uses 2 of them. So we'll do one on the rear bar and then one on the front bar. And then it'll hang. So with the Midnight Forest, and I'll show more once we actually get it bolted up, but it comes with a key, and that is the only way to get into here. So I've already loaded the saltwater rod that we commonly use here in our videos, and then the trout rod also already in there, and I'll show more of those at the end. But that one has a fighting grip on it, and then that's your regular trout rod, and then it just closes up. The one thing to note when installing it underhung on a rack like we'll be doing is the logo will be upside down. So the way we're going to be installing this today is with that bracket that they give you out of the box, and then we're dropping the lag bolts through, so that way you don't need a second person or a second wrench to attach things. So this guy will go long ways on top of the rear bracket, and we'll grab the other matching one and set that up. And then for my case, that's going all the way to the front. So we're supporting it all the way at the front and all the way at the rear. And then the next step is to actually hold the fly rod locker up there. Then you're going to use the 2 smaller plates, and those are going to go underside, and then go ahead and bolt that on with the nylocks and the washers. So it'll be the bolt, then put the bolt through any one of the channels. So in my case, we're going to be using the rearmost and the forwardmost. So just stick those through there, and then it'll be the plate followed by one of the stainless washers, and then the nylock nut. And we're going to keep it loose to begin with, so then we can adjust whether or not we want it forward or rear and get everything adjusted properly. And then the final piece is the lockout panels with the special locks that Midnight Forest has developed. So it might be a little difficult to see, but just how the bed rack's already been developed. But we'll get that figured out. We're gonna get this guy installed on there. Usually it's recommended to have a second person. I obviously do not have an extra set of hands today, so we are going to try and get this installed single-handedly. Okay, so we're back with the first step complete. So I have the rear attached, everything's just loose for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and repeat that on the middle bar and get it completely suspended, and then we'll go and tighten everything down. So everything is now loosely attached and it's just suspending there in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and show exactly what's been done and then explain what the next step is. So in my particular case, I've used the longer bolts and then used the bracket. So the long bolts come through, and then there's the plate on the bottom that everything's been attached to. And then I attached it here in the middle of the rack because it did not quite make it. Here we go. It did not quite make it here to the end. So that one did not extend all the way. Of course, you can adjust it however you want. That's the beauty of a system like this, is you can really make it your own. So now the next step, I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything down and get it exactly where I want it to live. And then once it's tightened down, I'm going to take these brackets, and then I'll show exactly what those will do here in just a second. So for tightening all of this down, I'd highly recommend a 9/16 deep socket. That way you can get a good reach on everything. And then we're just going to snug everything up. Just keep it where we can still have some final adjustment. Make sure all the brackets stay in the correct place. Just kind of work everything until it gets snug. I kept it very loose at the beginning, so I had full movement and just to support it while I was hanging it. Like I said, I would certainly recommend getting an extra set of hands for an install like this. With an install, there's always little adjustments to be made. So of course, just then I tightened down the rear of this bracket farther than the front, and so I lost all my adjustment. So I had to loosen that one up a little bit so I can tighten them evenly. The key here is to keep everything evenly tightened so it's horizontal. You don't want one side of this bracket tighter than the other. Everything installed now. So the last step, which I went ahead and did, those plates with the lock, they slide on, and then the remaining threads of the bolts that you used slide through, and then the actual lock, you just use the key and attach everything. So now there's no way of getting to the nut on the underside of those brackets without having the key, and they are keyed differently. So there'll be two sets of keys in the box, and one is for one lock and one is for the other. So keep that in mind. They're not keyed the same. So, I mean, added security there. So final step, bust this thing open. So the key, other set of keys, the key actually works the lid. And then there is a gasket. It's foam lined. Got a fly in there. And then included in the box are Midnight Forest branded rod holder sleeves. So depending on your rod, so in my case, I had to break the rod in half. Some shorter rods, you can just break it, just the final tip piece. But with mine, they're 8-foot rods. I had to take both pieces off. So You can line it up. You got your rod ready to go fish, and then break that front piece off. Bring the front piece back, and then just slide the rod sleeve. Oh. Actual rod sleeve just slips on over the end of the rod as usual. And then I wind up whatever excess has come off the rod, and now you got a complete package. And it holds 2 rods. And like I mentioned earlier, this is a 8-weight saltwater rod, and it even has the extra little cork butt at the end, and it's designed to hold that as well. So I've got both rods in there. Both rods are in there, and then there's foam lining everything. So I've been taking my one big shrimp for saltwater fishing and just sticking it right there in the foam. Sometimes I stick it on this piece there and just stick it really wherever. And then everything is molded plastic, super durable. Everything feels durable. And then lock it back up, and that's not going anywhere. Thanks for checking it out. I'll leave the install video that Midnight Forest did linked down below, along with the actual product page. But thanks for checking it out. I'm super excited for it, ready to hit the water, both down here on the coastal waters of the East Coast and up in the mountains, fishing for redfish, trout, pretty much anything. It's nice having an actual rod holder now instead of just putting the rods in the back seat of the truck. So thanks for watching. See you on the next video.